good for you. I have myself, personally, that's pretty cool thing. All right, anyways, let's get to the presentation. Mount Everest, what is it known for, you guys? Somebody shout it out. Notably, what is it? What is Mount Everest?
The tallest mountain.
Tallest. Now there's the misconception, right? Mount Everest is not actually the tallest mountain in the world. That title belongs to Mauna Kea of Hawaii. According to geology.com, Mauna Kea's oceanic base ranges from the sea level to about 4,000 meters above sea level, so about 10,000 meters in total, and Mount Everest only is around 8,400 meters in height. So Mount Everest actually is the highest above sea level, which is why people give it so much fame. Anyways, that's not the point. Mount Everest attracts a large quantity of tourists annually. In the article for the New York Times, Daryl Wade, chief executive and founder of Intrepid Travel, states, Everest is vital to the economy of economic recovery and the source of foreign income in the country of Nepal, with more than 40% of the country's 800,000 visitors each year coming for trekking and adventures activities. So Nepal, recently they had some pretty bad natural disasters. Earthquakes really destroyed their economy, kind of set back their infrastructure. And there's been a spike in the mountain climbing of Mount Everest, and that's really kind of boosted their economy, brought people to Nepal, sort of. Anyways, the climb to Mount Everest contains many stages. A journal entry by Paul Beatty and Simon Hudson. They go into detail of analyzing the emergence of mountain-based tourism. Tour of Mount Everest for a group it would cost before $250,000. For a single person, $30,000 to $75,000. Now that sounds pretty astronomical, but what that is a result of is the Nepalese government decides to put regulations on who can climb Mount Everest, and it's a $70,000 just to get a permit to climb the mountain. So a lot of it's just sort of kind of government regulated, and that's why the costs are so inflated. Anyways, climbing the mountain is no cakewalk itself. And an article by BBC, Simon Lowe, mountaineer and managing director of Jagged Globe, a company specializing in mountain treks, says that a climber must have at least 18 months to 2 years of training before they can climb Mount Everest. Now, this is because it's one of the most strenuous climbs in the world. You're climbing for 40 days at the shortest. That's the minimum that a trip to Mount Everest would take you. You're there for almost or at least a month. And so you need to be in really good physical shape, and that's been seen through the years. Many people have unfortunately not made it as a result of their lack of training beforehand. So once you get to the mountain, you're accepting a potentially deadly risk. First off, you have Tenzing Hillary Airport. This is the airport to get to Mount Everest. It's high up in the Himalayas. So you're going to be experiencing terrible weather pretty much at all times. And not to mention, it's one of the shortest runways, and it's on a cliff face. So not good, really not good. And a news article from the New York Times, Captain Pansing Nagarito, who flies the route to Mount Everest regularly, says, you can't train weather. You can fly the aircraft, you can learn to master the aircraft, but weather's just going to be there all the time, and you can't really predict it. That's the thing about this specific airport, is there's no really weather prediction station for that point, so they kind of have to rely on what previous people have been telling them earlier in the day or earlier in the week. So it's really sketch for the most part, not really a place you want to go unless you actually want to climb Mount Everest. Okay, so once you get to the point of climbing the mountain, that's where the real fun begins. So the guides are the Nepalese natives. They're called Sherpas. They are very experienced with the whole climbing process. Yeah, they're for hire. They kind of make sure that you don't die, or they try for the most part. In an article in the Wall Street Journal titled "Death at 19,000 Feet," it's made evident that the guys also referred to the Sherpas are they're put through life-threatening situations themselves. They're responsible for monitoring the lives of their companions who are paying them for the expedition. So that's they are threatening their own lives, but they're doing it to feed their families, which is always important. So we're getting to the summit. The Washington Post article states that Hillary's Step is definitely probably the most dangerous point of the expedition. That's the summit, named after Sir Edmund Hillary, the first person who climbed Mount Everest successfully. So Hillary's Step, it's in the death zone above altitude of 8,000 meters, which means that the oxygen concentration is 1/3 of what you would find at sea level. So technically, if you were to not have supplemented oxygen, you would die in about a minute. You would go unconscious, and you cannot breathe up there. So you're given lots of oxygen supplements. Many feats and failures have been seen at Everest. Most notably on the descent, failures do happen often. That's where people become exhausted. They tend to just drop. And when you drop on Everest, you really can't do anything for that person because you're at a risk yourself, you're at a time limit, and you need to get off the mountain. So, sorry, people, you're gonna die if you don't get up. Anyways, 282 deaths have been recorded since the year 1924 when Everest was first starting to be climbed. Let's see. According to CNN, so to conclude, 4,000 people have successfully climbed Mount Everest since Sir Edmund Hillary had done it in 1953. 200 have actually managed to do it without supplemented oxygen. Now, how they did that, we have yet to scientists don't really know how. I mean, it's kind of a debate, not really a natural thing. I guess they just get sort of really accustomed to the high altitudes beforehand, and so they sort of are able to manage it better. Now, one last thing. Is it worth it? Of course it's worth it. It's Mount Everest. It's great. It's the final frontier on Earth. But one mountaineer stated in Time magazine, it's Ed Visturis, he said that I understood getting to the top of the mountain, getting off the mountain itself, was more important than getting to the top, in case your life is more important than Everest. You have one life. You can climb Everest as much as you want. So it's a dangerous trap. It's a beautiful sight. If you ever get the chance to do it, you probably won't regret it. Just don't die, and you'll be good. Thank you.
Okay, Drew.